right, I'll call this meeting to order with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, any public comments? Don't look like we got anyone for that. New business, approval of resignation.
Okay, we have a resignation from Savannah Novak. She's a part-time elementary custodian, and for personal reasons, she's decided that she's going to resign. So she's given her 2 weeks' notice, and her last day will be here at the end of next week. So,
I move to approve.
Second.
It has been properly moved and seconded to approve the resignation. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passes. Adopt the final 22 and 23 district levy.
okay. So the primary reason why we're here tonight. So if you flip through the packet here, so what I have the final budget in the more simplified form. That's like the published form, you know. And the reason I just did that because if you flip one more page to the one that at the top it says total expenses and other financing uses, that's kind of this one gives a nice summary. So the part below that is proposed property tax levy. So this is a similar document to what we looked at in the at the annual meeting and in July when we approved the preliminary budget. Our revenue projections were very, very close in terms of our student enrollment. We have one more student than in the fall, and that doesn't mean literally one student. That's the formula, which is the 3-year average, includes the 3-year average for summer school and lots of different things. So it's not an actual raw head count. It's a membership count, which is a different thing. But anyway, so that was pretty close. And kind of the big picture is that the value of properties in Clear Lake School District increased pretty dramatically. The value of properties across the state of Wisconsin are increasing. So anyway, when we do the revenue limit formula, just trying to think big picture, or talk big picture here. So we got a little bit more revenue from the equalization aid formula because we had one more member. And which correspondingly took a little bit off of our local levy in that way. We also had some minor adjustments in there for little miscellaneous things that we didn't know about in the summer. There was a correction for some open enrollment kids that we didn't get credit for last year that were partially open enrolled, moved in partway through the year. There was a correction for an energy efficiency data point that didn't get shared to DPI a year ago, so that was a correction of $33,000. There was, I can't remember the other one off the top, but there was 3 little things, and they kind of balanced each other out. But bottom line is, our revenue was very, very close to what we projected. So when we did the revenue limit formula, the way it came out, we actually. So if you look at the total school levy number there in that column, 2,658,836, that is the exact number that we projected in August at the annual meeting. And because we got a little bit more state aid, I was actually able to, in order to keep it what we projected. It could have been a little bit less, but to keep it what we projected, which is still less than last year's, we're actually able to take about $28,000 and apply it to our Fund 39 referendum debt service. So looking at the numbers, the general fund number is very close. The referendum debt service fund, Fund 39, $488,511. That number was like $460 back in the summer. So we're able to pay off a little bit of debt amount there. The Fund 38 non-referendum, $517,516, that number didn't change at all. The Community Service Fund, that number didn't change at all from August. And so our total tax levy, $2,658,836, which is just slightly less than last year's levy by just a few $1,000s. And then if you look below that, the mill rate projection, so that brings the mill rate due to the property value increases the mill rate, we projected 9.27 back in July and August. It's actually projects to it's going to be 8.24 instead. So that is reflective of statewide. There's a lot of, the mill rates are going down statewide, and that is because in the last biennium, the money that was put into education, there was money put into the equalization aid formula, but there was no money put in to allow for revenue cap increase. So there was more money put into the system, but we couldn't spend anymore. So what happens is there's more state aid and less property taxes. So that's a fairly dramatic movement in the mill rate, and you usually generally want to try to avoid that.
Yeah.
However, if we kept our mill rate up at the 947 or 914, we would have exceeded our total tax levy, from last year. And I think that was something that we spoke to our public about last year, was passing the referendum, we would be able to not levy any more taxes and keep our mill rate from going up. And this allows us to deliver on that. To meet our needs.
Overabundantly, yeah.
Yeah. So just for your interest, I added in the next page there, the comparison of equalized values by municipalities. It's very interesting to look at. The percentage increase by municipality. You look at Black Brook up 21%, New Haven 21%, Vance Creek 18%. Some pretty big jumps there, but overall in the district,
Taxes will go down, man.
yeah, taxes will go down. Yeah, our mill rate will be lower. I shouldn't say, we can't account for
Our
what
mill rate will go down, but property taxes
property
went up.
taxes
That's
went
why
up.
we got the
Exactly.
increased value.
Because the value went up everywhere, and we're still taking a fixed amount of money, the dollar amount, 2.658 million is the same. So the values go up, so that means we're taking, we need to take less from each property owner in taxes. Now, we can't account for what the county does or what the technical college does,
the property
whatever,
tax
but our
went
part
down.
of it will
Right.
go down, yes. So, but it's pretty dramatic, $41.5 million total, increase total across the district. Pretty
In
dramatic.
value change.
After a nearly $30 million value change the year before, so pretty dramatic. If you like the historical stuff, flip the page again, and there's shows the historical going back to the 80s. But if you look at the last, so the top number there is the total levy of taxes collected, the equalized value. So the equalized value is the total property value in the district. So, and then the mill rate. The blue shaded stuff I added in there for 22. It's not reflected in the chart below. But you can see if you look at the mill rates, the K-12 average, that's the statewide average of mill rates. So if you look at from 2020 to 2021, statewide it went down a chunk last year, but ours didn't. Because we over levied for Fund 39 to keep it flat, so that allowed us to, not over levy this year and keep our levy even. So we're having, I think some districts probably had a gradual a downward move last year, and again this year we're kind of doing it in one bigger chunk, I would say. If that makes sense. But it's pretty striking to look at the value of, $322 million total compared to, 20 years ago, $153 million in 2002, so you can see property values doubling in the last 20 years.
Just look at those rates in the 80s. Whew.
Yeah, the mill rates in the 80s, yeah. Which is why, when you get to the early 90s and 93, that's why the revenue limits came in, because,
The rate.
property,
Yeah.
property taxes funded virtually all of public education back then. And so that's when the new system came in 93. And it was supposed to be temporary. It was supposed to be for like a 1 or 2 year period, and it's here we are 30 years later with it. So but anyway, there's so much interesting data you can dig into, and last week again we were doing this, found myself kind of geeking out again, getting into all this, but What other questions or any questions on the, so the first part is to approve the levy, and then the second part is the budgets. Any questions about the levy first? Needless to say, I was very happy to see how it, came in the way it did, so.
We're gonna do them both at once, or you want them individually?
It should be individual.
I guess there are 2 items on there, so I guess we
Okay.
could do them individually.
I would entertain a motion.
I move to approve the final 2022-23 district levy.
Second.
It has been properly moved and seconded to approve the final 22-23 district levy. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Levy passes. Next, the adoption of the final 22-23 budget.
Okay, so again, if you flip to the next part, so the actual, the little bit more detailed final budget document, this looks, it's the same one as the one we looked at in July when you approved the preliminary budget. There were very, very few adjustments that we made. We had slightly less Fund 10 dollars. We're able to put some more in Fund 39, but just the way the revenue worksheet played out, and some of those adjustments that I mentioned before, we had a little bit less revenue for Fund 10 to the tune of $40-some thousand, and so we made some just adjustments in some of the transportation budget and some of those variable costs that we have to make it be a balance. Again, it's all a projection, it's a budget, it's not the actual costs. As far as any other highlights or whatever, any questions about anything in the actual budget?
So very minor changes from July.
Yeah, and there were a couple of other little things too. When we compared fund balances, between the two, so there were a couple little things that were in the audit that we caught, either Lori caught or the auditors caught. There was, say, an expense that we put it on 21-22, and they said, oh, actually it has to be on 22-23, or vice versa. So it was $4,000 here in the food service account, or a couple charges here and there.
Jackson, they wanted in 21-22. So.
Yeah, the roofing company. Yeah. So just there were some little adjustments, stuff like that. So other than that, it was very little change to it. So
over the course of the year, what happens if you go over the budget?
Then, if we go over budget, then you would dip into fund balance.
Okay.
That would be the simple answer, I guess. Yeah.
There's no fines.
Oh, fine. Okay.
Yeah. No.
Does anybody question you, or?
Well, we'll get. At the end of the year, when we close out the books and everything, then we'll get audited next July again, and that's where we see everything. So, so just right here, right now we've got the 2021 audited numbers. 21-22, it still says unaudited, although the audit's been complete since July, but we don't have their report yet, so it still says unaudited for last year. So next year that'll all just shift over, and our actual expenses for 22-23 will be right there.
Gotcha, I see.
Yep. And that's certainly a big part of what we used to formulate this year's, and it is still a guess on a lot of things. We're talking about fuel prices and utility prices and things like that. And I think we budgeted very conservatively, knowing that we have some of the referendum money and some unknown things for
And the ESSER money too.
and ESSER money too. So honestly, I think more likely what we're going to be dealing with at the end of the year is more what to do with the surplus, and how to apply that appropriately in the most strategic way, I think. So with Fund 46 versus fund balance versus other things. So good question.
You guys got anything else? I would entertain a motion.
Move to approve the final 2022-23 budget.
Second.
It has been properly moved and seconded to approve the final 22-23 budget. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, budget passes. Next, we have the second reading approval of board policies, non-discrimination and anti-harassment policy as follows. Updates 1422 through a bunch to 5517.
Yeah, so we got what, 2, 4, 6, 8, 15 different, under that umbrella of non-discrimination, anti-harassment. This is an update we're kind of getting caught up on. So yeah, none of the policies in that bundle are new policies. They are updates to existing policies that we have. This was kind of the, we talked about our plan over time to get ourselves caught up here. So these are the ones that are in the blue folder from 2 meetings ago. So we'll do, second reading on this couple bundles here, and then first reading on volume 30, number 2, and 31, number 1, and those are actually given out at the October 10th meeting when we table them. So, but this first group, if you recall, I know that our assistant, our helper from Neola, which is our board policy, company or service, he definitely recommended to get the non-discrimination policies addressed and passed as soon as possible. There's just been a number, he said, of just court cases and legal changes that are just reflected in those. So there's a lot there. You guys had a couple questions kind of outside of the meeting. One of them was why some of the language was in old 0145, which is actually in the next bundle, the sexual and other forms of harassment update, which is not part of this first bundle, but why some of the language was in there but not in some of these. Yeah. And it was, so I reached out to Chris Petrito, our Neola rep, and he just, basically explained that in the one policy, they laid out all of the quote-unquote protected classes of employees or students or board members or administrators, defined them all, and he said they just, for whatever reason, they didn't define every single protected class in every, I don't know if that was the best answer I had from him. One thing he did offer, though, is he said, and I have it if anybody wants, he just said, as far as all of the different protected classes, race, color, national origin, age, sex, pregnancy, creed or religion, handicap, disability, marital status, so on, he had a nice document because he said, other boards or people have had similar questions, and he just had from Neola this document that has every one of those protected classes and what is the basis for their legal protection, whether it be a state statute, federal statute, a title, like the title, which is the federal policy, Title IX, or whatever. So if anybody has or wants that, I can give that to you. Yeah. Does anybody else? Might as well do that. Might as well give it to everybody as long as you're scanning a note here. That was just an item of interest. He said if you could help to answer people's questions. Other than that, again, the changes in the policies are there to reflect updates to statutes and court cases. And
I think the only thing that we noted that it needs to be changed is the updates to the compliance officers.
Yes.
So
Yes.
that just means it was updated in one and then not updated in the other. So that's.
Yeah, I caught that too. I got all these sticky notes in here on mine. All the pages that I found were so quite a few were I talked to Chris about that too. He said, "Yep, just give me the info," and he said, "I will change it in all of them, make sure." So that was the other question. I remember.
That was mine. Big thing.
Yeah.
Can we approve them as a
Approve them with
bundle?
those changes, or?
I think
The
we can
15
approve
we
them.
can approve, and then, or can we
Yeah.
approve the whole second reading group?
I think either way. It's-
Do 'em all?
Because it's all D. I feel like we can approve
Yeah.
that whole agenda item.
Yeah. So how do we choose who those officers are? And
So,
Usually the guidance
They are
counselor.
chosen.
usually an administrator and guidance counselor, what we had before was myself and Mrs. Millar. He said it's nice to have a male and a female, you know, if possible,
It looked like
ideally.
in the one, it's,
I talked to
Yeah.
Mr. Melberg.
Mr. Melberg
And then
Jamie.
Miss Donath at the
Yeah.
elementary counselor.
It's
And-
nice to have one in each building, I think. too.
Yeah, that was kind of part of the reason for that too, was one in each building. I spoke to each of them in the summer about that, or not in the summer, but before we brought it here. And then one of the things that Mr. Petrito said too is he said, you know, if you have an investigation of this matter, he said you will very likely be contacting your attorney to do the investigation for you as an independent investigator. So to reassure those employees that, you know, they're not assuming all this legal liability by having their name down there. Because obviously I had my name down there before too, so it was.
And I'm good with what they said in the answer from the questions last week, but I think we just really need to be aware of where it says notices need to be published or things need to be
Yes.
included, that we're really doing those
Those-
things that we are going
Yeah.
to vote on, that this is our policy.
Yeah. One of the things that Neola does as well too is they provide a document each year that reminds you of what are all the legal notices. So, yeah, but I'm gonna make a note of that too.
through there was notes I made, just want to make sure. I think I talked to her about them all already.
You got something over there, Matt?
I'm good.
All right, so we're looking for a motion
Any-
to.
Are you doing the second bundle too here, or any
Any
questions on
questions
those?
on the others?
Yeah, that's what I'm asking.
sorry.
No, I'm
No,
good. No, I'm
this was
good.
the easy, this part was the easy one.
Yep,
Yeah.
I'm good.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep, I'm good.
Was that?
So we're gonna do all of D.
Yeah. So I move to approve the non-discrimination and anti-harassment policies as listed in the agenda and 143.2, 145, 1211, 7540.04, and 8395 new board policies.
Second that.
It has been properly moved and seconded to approve item D agenda items. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I,
All those opposed, all those new policies are approved. All right, next we have E, review of the first reading of board policies 0144.5 through 6114.
So yeah, that's that
Yellow one?
one in the yellow the ones in the yellow folder, which you got last time. And again, this is just first reading, so I think that that first big bunch is probably the beast of the group, and these
Yeah.
the rest of these are more, you know, they're more 1-2 page, a little more. At least as I glanced through them, I felt like they were a little simpler. And again, the ones, if you look on the agenda, the majority of them are updates. What I'll do is I'll put update if it's an update on the agenda, and then the only new policy that was
Virtual,
was conduct in virtual classroom, which is kind of, you know, like a year or two too late, but I think that people are, you know, realizing that there's been some issues with that, or a question that's, I'm sure, arisen somewhere about enforcement of school policy through virtual.
so I have a question on this electoral process. So if one of us on the board does not run again, and we don't file in a timely manner, then we have to put that on our website that
Mhm.
person is not running.
Mm-hmm.
Like somehow that has to be communicated to the public if an incumbent is not running.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that.
It gives more time for someone else to come forward too as a candidate.
Is that why you have to post it, is so that people, okay. Just like, why does it matter?
I suppose, yeah, just to let people know publicly that someone's not
Because
running.
there is a deadline for you to
Yep.
apply to be a candidate, and there's a deadline for people that are on the board to say that they're not going to run.
Mhm.
Right.
So it's basically giving the public a chance to react.
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay.
I know it wasn't here last meeting, but did you, getting these via computer or tablets, how's that moving forward?
We're working
Nope,
towards
we
that,
got
yeah.
printed paper.
I got
Maybe
Yeah,
by
we're
the
working
next
there.
one.
Yeah, we are working.
We'll
we're getting
slowly
there.
get there.
We're getting there.
I think it will be easier for you, but maybe not.
Yeah, no, it will be. I mean, it'd definitely be easier to be able to, but although honestly, I will say right now in board docs, it's kind of a mess. Because if you go into the drafts side, there's a lot in there. Again, we're trying to catch up a lot of things, and so honestly, I had to have Chris decipher it for me and help me organize it. Now I understand it. So it'll get cleaned up over the next couple of months.
I have to say though, being on a computer all day long, it is refreshing to read off a paper.
Well, and I too, there's times where sometimes I just need to print it and read it on paper
Yeah.
to digest it better too. So I
Right,
mean,
and I write on it and highlight my
Yeah.
questions and all that.
so it's
too.
certainly up to the board if you want to continue to get paper copies or anybody wants paper
No, I
copies.
just know that's what we talked about last
Yeah.
time.
Yeah,
Just curious.
we can.
I can go either way. I
Yeah.
like either way.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll go through those, and when we meet next time,
Check them off.
Yeah,
hopefully
so-
check those ones out.
Yeah, if you can get a chance to look through them before we meet November 14th, and any questions or whatever you can bring to that meeting.
Do we
too.
have anything on our website that provides guidance on public comments at board meetings? Like, is there any?
Our policy is on.
Is on
Yeah,
there?
is on the
Okay.
website,
I
yeah.
just want to make, I mean,
Yeah, yeah, good
it's
question.
one of those things that people ask, like, or it's a misinterpretation of how you interact
Mhm.
in a public meeting.
Mhm. I think, and you know, all the legal presentations I've been a part of over the years, and especially this year in my role, it certainly is a confusion for board members and administrators around the
Yeah.
state, because there are people who, you know, they're again constantly reemphasizing what are the rules, what are the things you can do as a board and not do as a board, and what are the parameters you can set up. So it's definitely, yeah, we're not alone, and
Right.
people not always being totally clear on that. So
I've been listening to some contentious board meetings, and every time they get up and say, each person has 3 minutes, we do 30 minutes total, and our board cannot interact with you. It's
Mhm.
state statute.
Yeah.
So they say that beginning of every meeting.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think it's just one of those things you have to state, because it is not the same as a regular meeting.
Right.
Okay. Next, future agenda items. Second reading of these board policies, huh?
That's it.
Well, the
Yeah.
approval, yeah.
And
second.
I mean, I've got a list of things I'm starting, but
Yeah.
Sure.
you know, kind of
Yeah.
regular stuff.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Please.
It's been properly
Give me
moved
a
and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, we are adjourned.